having a great time. Yeah. Off to a fantastic start.
The first 1/10 of a mile is going well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm already soaked, might as well go right through it.
Oh, come on. Right into me, you know.
I can't get any more wet.
After our week in Kingston, New York, we headed off to Connecticut for our third Nutmeg Nor'Easter in a row. It was pouring down rain when we got there. We signed in, and then we were heading up to a lean-to on a hill. Erin actually slipped a little bit on a flat rock, fell over, and when she went to get up, she realized she was in a lot of pain. I ended up taking her to the ER. We were there for a couple hours before she sent me back. She didn't want me to miss out on stuff, and she was like, your nervous energy isn't helping me out here anyways. She took a lift back, and we found out she had broken her ankle in 2 places. What a bummer, especially after all the gnarly riding we had done all week and all the stuff we had done to have something so simple cause something so horrible. Anyways, we hung out during the evening, but Erin ended up sleeping in the car and taking a lift to the airport in the morning. It wasn't that she was against just hanging out and being around, it was that we were going to have a 12-hour drive to get home after Nutmeg, and she knew she did not want to be in a car for 12 hours in that situation. So anyways, I'll get into more details on all this stuff down the road, but I took off on the ride. My crew was Brad, Ames, and a friend Ed from Columbus. Dylan and Ben had decided to do the really long ride, so they took off much earlier than us. Right off the rip, I tried to get across this creek crossing with the rain. Feet went right in, so...
It's a little deeper than I thought.
Yeah, didn't have to worry about being wet anymore. We were already soaked from the rain and my feet had already gone underwater. It wasn't that cold this day, thank God. So it was 60-ish, I believe. So it wasn't too bad being wet. If you saw my last video about higher ground hundo, that was much tougher to be out in. The route was amazing. I chose the 55-mile route. Like I said, there's the longer one, but I wanted to be able to be a little more party pace and hanging out and stopping and taking pictures and all that. Plus, my original plan was to do this because I would have been riding it with Erin. Such a great mix, this route, you know, gravel roads, single track, country roads, just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So Nutmeg Nor'Easter is hosted by Ronnie Romance and his partner Aria. They have Ron's Bags, which is a handmade bike company right here in Connecticut. And then he is also half of Ultra Dynamico Tires. So Nutmeg is a weekend of bikes, camping, hanging out, just having a lot of fun. This year, having that lodge with the rain was a great location for it. I didn't get a ton of footage of that for 2 reasons. One was the stress of what was going on with Erin. So I kind of, even though we were being social and stuff was going on, I just, obviously my head was in a space, as you could imagine. The other reason is just the nature of the event, and I feel like my friend Party Size Cycling summed it up so good on his Instagram account. I'm just going to read what he wrote about Nutmeg verbatim. My 4th Nutmeg Nor'Easter, and each one has been a unique experience, except lately they've been filled with familiar faces. You will hear mostly everyone at this event say, I didn't take enough pictures, because it's challenging to capture the divination of this sponsor-free grand tour of bike joy despite literally everything around you being the most Instagrammable moment of your life. So you resign to just enjoying moments. The quick 15 minutes with a friend you only see once a year, but feel like your best bud, before one of you is invariably pulled towards some other need or distraction, and you part ways without worry because you'll see them again next year. Feeling pure serendipity upon finding a new friend that turns out to live only minutes away that you'll now end up seeing routinely. 400 plus potential riding partners, self-organizing, and embarking with no set start time, no cutoffs, just pure flow state of alt bike culture. Until next time, Nutmeggers. And it's just so true. I love that Andrew said that. We didn't even meet at the first Nutmeg I was at. We met on either Instagram or YouTube after by connecting from the event. And then last year we ended up getting an Airbnb together, and we've chatted online ever since. So obviously sharing this awesome route with your friends is the main event, but it's so much more than that. Reintroducing yourself to someone you recognize or putting that real face to the screen name you know, those are just all awesome. I am not the most outgoing person in the world, but I am extremely social, so I just end up loving the whole thing. Since I've been doing organized events, I do have the people in my life who will say, why would you ever pay to ride your bike? Beyond the obvious of the curated routes, the place to stay, the food, it's all this stuff I'm just talking about. It's the friendships, it's meeting people, like-minded people. You're getting brought together in a way that wouldn't happen. You know, me and my friends know how to plan routes. We do our own trips often. I don't want to do an event every weekend, but there are certain ones that are always worth coming back to. So I do have to admit that for the first half of the ride and through breakfast, I was a little out of it. I was still a little stressed about Erin. She was finding her way home. She had to get through airports on her broken ankle and crutches and all that. So I thought the route was awesome, and I was trying to live in the moment, and I knew Erin would want me to have a good time, but I have to admit it was still something that was on my mind, as you could imagine, and bothering me a bit. I did have the right bike for the situation and the conditions. I was really happy again on the Gunner, 55 millimeter Renaers tires. Again, I'm really happy to ride the sweep bars in gnarly conditions. I even like the sweep bars for mountain biking. Sweep bar mountain biking is awesome. So really cool route, really great, but it just kind of took me a while to start living in and enjoying the moment. I think that's kind of understandable. I will admit that I had a little bit of FOMO about not doing the longer route, which was closer to 90 miles. The good thing, as mentioned, is this route was all new. So a lot of the longer route was stuff that I'd ridden in the 2 previous years. If you had never done Nutmeg and didn't do the longer route, you did miss out on a couple things. The ferry ride out of Chester is really cool. We still stopped in Chester, which I'll show in a minute. But the ferry ride is cool. It goes over to the castle, Gillette Castle, and just a really unique thing to do. And then there was also a stop at J.P. Weigel's workshop, who is kind of a legendary New England frame builder, like Ron Newering type bikes and all that. So I guess he had donuts and cider out for people. I got to do it last year, so not the end of the world, but you know, you always think about stuff like that. But this was good because no one was in a big hurry who was doing the 55 to get on the road in the morning, because that's when it really poured. It actually didn't rain that much most of the day, but it didn't matter. We were already soaked, and all these puddles, you'll see even more of them we were going through, were just insane. So being wet was part of the day, but it was nice that it didn't actually pour all day long. This section was really cool, really park-like ledges. You could see people were stopping just to hang out here for a while. And then we hit some really rocky stuff that was challenging and fun to try and descend. You could see it here. Again, this is what drives me crazy, that Erin broke her ankle just simply riding to the campsite. We had been doing mountain biking even gnarlier than this all week long. Every year I have passed some people who are a little underbiked and maybe didn't know what they were getting themselves into, but in general, most people know what they're coming here for. So as you're passing people, no matter what the conditions are or how tough the terrain is, most people are smiling and waving and saying hi and really enjoying the challenge of the ride. As you can see here, obviously, as I always say, descents don't come out on GoPros, but picking these lines, going down these hills, it was all a fun challenge. And as always, this event is designed to be at peak New England fall foliage, so the colors are just amazing, just absolutely stunning. I like the road sections too because, you know, I'm not from New England, so the architecture is different. I love all the cool stone walls. You could see one right there as we go around this gate, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, so I like all the sections of the ride. So next up, we rolled into the little town of Chester. There's a brewery there we've stopped at every Nutmeg Nor'Easter. And we stopped there for beers again this time, but it was the middle of the ride, and then this happened.
Terry B action.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So Terry is a really well-known YouTuber, cycling YouTuber from Brooklyn, New York. I started following him, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, 2020, maybe even before then. He's where I got the idea to do live streaming from and all that. So we've been chatting online for a long time. So really cool to finally meet him. You know, he introduced us to all his friends, who I also feel like I know between Instagram and his YouTube videos. We all rolled out of the brewery together after a couple beers and lunch. I had bought lunch in the morning. They had brown bag lunches you could buy, but a lot of people ate at the restaurants there in Chester and all that. So we all rolled out together and then ended up riding the rest of the day with Terry and his friends. Definitely flipped my mood around. We were having a lot of fun just blasting down all the hills. Like I showed in the intro of this video, when people were trying to walk around all the puddles and that, we were just sending it directly through all the puddles. You know, said, can't get any wetter, why not try and challenge everything? There's one section coming up somewhere here where there was actually in one of these, we were joking about the puddles being small lakes. And we were getting through them, all trying not to put a foot down. And then there was one with a log floating across it. Of course, Terry was able to get over it, and I'm like, might as well try it. I got stuck, fell over, got in up to my shoulder. And so when I was saying I can't get any more wet, I realized it turned out I actually could get a little more wet. So it didn't matter though. Again, all the wool layers is what I did, you know, because wool still insulates and keeps you reasonably warm. And again, it wasn't that cold this day, so did all right temperature wise. Wool tights, wool base layer, rain jacket that I mostly had zipped open to vent. So yeah, Andre, Jeff, Alex, Joseph, Crop Top, whose real name is Jacob, just had a lot of fun riding with all those dudes. Just like I said, blasting the puddles, flying down the rocks. Still rode it as a wait up ride, like this group and a couple people who also fell in with us. We were all waiting up for each other and kind of keeping it as a group. Ames went off the front for a while with Alex. They were kind of hitting some of the road sections really hard, but then we ended up catching up with Ames when we got to some of this really tough stuff. So really getting the chance to bomb through this crazy stuff and chat with Terry and his friends was awesome. Me and Terry have a bunch of mutual interests besides just cycling and making YouTube videos with the work he does. We're both into film photography and to both do camera operator work and a bunch of that stuff. So for me, being in a small market, I don't get to nerd out about all that stuff all the time, you know, so to talk to New York professionals about all that was great. You know, his friends are also, a lot of them are in the industry as well. One's a DIT, one's a video editor. So just all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun nerding out about everything from 10-bit files to GoPro stabilization to shooting with Sony FX3s and all that kind of stuff. In the evening, I actually walked back to the wrong group of lean-tos, and then I hear, are you just finishing the ride? And I look, and it was Terry and all his buddies, so I had a drink with them, and we ended up hanging out then most of the evening around the fire, going down back to the dance party that they had at the lodge. And while we were hanging out, was still running into all kinds of other friends and familiar faces. So, yeah, great experience. Look at this, riding through this insane puddle, just, you know, blasting. It was so much fun. Like I said, just running into this crew really did kind of turn my day around after a rough start. So despite what you've seen on this trip and in this ride, I can be a bit of a fair weather cyclist. You know, I'll ride in winter and all that kind of stuff, but I am not a fan of going out in the rain or being muddy. But this, you know, being here and just accepting it, it was one of those things where it turned it into a lot of fun. You know, can I say I liked it better than if it was like a beautiful day with blue skies? I don't know. This challenge just, made it really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And we were mostly smiling and laughing and having a blast. So every year of this event has been a little different, but every year just gives me such a buzz. It's kind of why me and my friends have it locked on our calendars now. We just make sure to do it. It's a hike to get out there for us. That's why we try and make a whole trip out of it. So my ride by the numbers, as Dustin Klein would say, on the route I did was 57 miles, 4,500 feet of elevation, and just shy of 6 hours of rolling time. We were out there a lot longer, as you can see. We waited, like as I mentioned, we waited up, we stopped at the brewery, we ate lunch and stuff like that. But yeah, so it was a long, fun day out. I have to give a shout out to Terry's friend Jeff, who really saved me on this ride. Up here, you'll see we did this hike-a-bike up this rocky section. On the way down, I went to hit my front brake, and there was no front brake. It was a little terrifying. Maybe you realize, maybe you don't, how much front brake you end up using when you're riding like the gnarly off-road stuff. You know, I kind of associate myself with skidding a little with the back tire, but yeah, it was right after this section, and I tried to go on riding, say it wasn't a big deal. I didn't want to hold everybody up, or I didn't want anyone to unnecessarily wait for me, but yeah, just kind of bombing down this stuff without being able to really slow down was sketchy. And so I thought when I looked down that I had lost my brake pad completely or totally worn out. I could see My Grotex are single piston, so the outside pushes against the rotor, and then it just hits the inside pad, and yeah, I thought it was gone. Jeff realized it had just gotten pushed in all the way. As you could see, these conditions in the whole week of riding, that's not surprising. I had to adjust it a couple times, but he grabbed his tool, got me set back up, and thank God, because I was just thinking, what if we hit one of those road descents that I want to slow down, and what if the same thing happens to my rear, and then I am just flying and I can't do anything to stop? A little terrifying. We were only 10 miles away from the finish, but there was this whole section here at the end was a long, awesome off-road section. So to be able to ride it with confidence is what you want, for sure. So this was just about the end of the ride. When we got back, the first order of business was getting into some dry clothes. After the dry clothes, there's a thing you could buy called the Pizza Pass, which is $30, and it's all you can eat of some of the best pizza you've ever had in your life. So just slammed a ridiculous amount of pizza. I don't keep count. I don't think anyone really wants to. But yeah, just enjoying the pizza and all that stuff. Also, as I was changing my clothes, I ran into my friend Al, who I met at Higher Ground last year, then also saw at Nutmeg last year. He handed me a beer right away, so it was pretty perfect. I had by this point known that Erin had made it home safe. She was back with her cats. That was awesome. Here in line, Ben is talking to Joe Cruz, who you might know from bikepacking.com. If you don't, you should follow him on Instagram. His adventures are great, and his writing is awesome, and his photos are great. But Ben had bought at the swap meet a pair of pants from Joe's table, so he was talking to Joe about, hey, your rain pants saved me because I forgot to bring them. So you could see the rest of the night was some shenanigans down here at the lodge before we headed back up, hung out at the fires. Sorry to everybody that some of us might have kept up a little bit late, including my friends and the legendary lean-to section number 3. Got to hang out with Miggy a lot and chat to him, who I've met at Nutmeg before, which is really cool. This is in the morning. I was able to strap everything to my bike and take it down to the car. Shout out to those Model Infinity tools. Love them. Also, that thing of packing my panniers as my bag is a great idea, because then all I have to do is throw them on my bike and ride them to the campsite. What you're seeing here is what they've done. They didn't do it last year because it was more of a bike packing trip, but the Scorcher race, which is a fixed gear, off-road circuit. They do a neutral lap, and then they did this start. What did people just tell me the start is called? A Le Mans style start. So it was awesome. Of course, Terry rolls right up there and has to jump in my shot. But anyways, crop top, Jacob, pretty much dominated the thing. Ronnie came in second. So yeah, really fun event. And look, you could see the weather on this day was much better, even though these guys still had to go through the mud to do the ride. And then that was it. We were going to stop somewhere on the way home, but we decided just to head straight back, make the long drive, save the money on the hotel. We had been gone for a week. Everyone was tired. So yeah, we just did a quick Taco Bell stop, and that was it. Nutmeg 2023 in the books. Wild ride, one very unfortunate thing that happened, but in general still turned out to be a great trip. And yeah, consider this one for next year. I think it's sold out at 500 people. So I know we always have it on our radar and sign up the second that we see the registration open up. Hope to see you next year. Leave me comments if you were there. Remind me of your name. Let's hook up on Instagram and all that kind of thing. As always, if you like this kind of stuff, check out the links that I have below if you want to support the channel. Get subscribed up to see some stuff from the rest of this trip. I have some videos that I'd filmed earlier in the week that I haven't made yet. So, till next time, peace.